A lonely road at night can rewrite your entire life with a single sound. For as long as people have ventured from home, stories have followed, tales of beings that hold the power to change a traveler's fate with a glance, a whisper, or a riddle. This journey will reveal 20 legendary creatures said to shape the destiny of wanderers, from spectral omens to territorial guardians. By the end, you will understand the ancient, hidden rules of the road that are written not on maps, but in myth. What does a mournful wail in an Irish mist truly foretell? And what waits for you at a forgotten crossroads? What legendary encounter do you believe still walks beside the modern traveler? The sound begins as a low keening on the wind, a vibration in the air that seems to pull at the very soul. For the traveler caught on an Irish moor as the evening mist descends, this is the voice of the Banshee. More than a simple ghost story, she is a messenger, a familial spirit whose mournful wail carries across hills and through time to reach the ears of those destined for loss. Her cry is not a random haunting, it is a targeted announcement. As folklore scholar Dr. Patricia Lysat explains, the Banshee's lament is a personalized warning, a supernatural telegraph that cuts through the silence to signal an impending passing within a specific family line. For the wanderer far from home, this makes her the most intimate and terrifying of omens. Her grief is not for you, the listener on the road, but for a loved one you have left behind. She embodies the ancient dread of separation, the haunting fear that tragedy strikes. As folklore scholar Linda Ivanitsky notes, the Leshy's judgment is profoundly moral, rooted in ancient codes of respect. For the traveler who enters the woods with humility, who leaves a small offering at a gnarled root or speaks a polite greeting to the silence, the Leshy might guide their steps to a clearing rich with berries or reveal the hidden track of a deer. But for the boisterous hunter who shouts, breaks branches without care, or boasts of conquering the wild, the spirit's retribution is a slow, psychological unraveling. He leads them in endless circles, the same brook crossing their path hour after hour, until hunger and despair strip away all arrogance. This duality captures a fundamental truth in the mythology of travel. Nature itself is not a passive backdrop but a conscious participant. Your fate as a wanderer is not pre-written, it is negotiated in real time through your actions and attitude. The Leshy does not simply punish, he teaches, enforcing a pact of respect between humanity and the untamed world. His lesson echoes off the dense trees and follows the flow of streams, leading us logically from the guardian of the woods to the sovereign of another, equally treacherous domain, the world of rivers, lakes, and deep, still water. A river's surface holds a perfect, upside-down world of trees and sky, a mirror that can shatter in an instant. For the weary traveler in ancient Japan, stopping to drink from a cool stream or wash the dust from their face, this placid scene concealed one of folklore's most cunning negotiators. Beneath the water waits the Kappa, a yokai whose very nature is a contradiction, a being of both lethal danger and rigid etiquette. Imagine a creature the size of a child, with scaly green skin, a turtle-like shell on its back, and most curiously, a shallow, water-filled dish recessed into the top of its head. This dish is the source of its life force when it is full. The Kappa possesses immense strength and can venture onto land, but if the water spills, it becomes weak and vulnerable. This simple, physical design flaw is the key to every traveler's potential survival. The Kappa is not a mindless monster. It is a trickster with a code, deeply obsessed with politeness and bound by its word. As folklore historian Michael Dillon Foster explains, the most famous tales involve a traveler encountering a Kappa and quickly bowing deeply. The creature, compelled by its own ingrained social rules, will bow in return, spilling the water from its head and becoming powerless until it can refill the dish from its home river. Other stories tell of travelers carrying inscribed cucumbers, a food the Kappa loves, as a protective offering or challenging the creature to a game of sumo wrestling, which it cannot resist. In every version, fate is not decided by brute strength but by wit and cultural knowledge. The Kappa represents the hidden social contracts of the road, the idea that danger often wears a familiar face and can be disarmed not with a weapon but with a gesture. It teaches that understanding the local rules, even the bizarre and supernatural ones, is the ultimate travel skill. Your survival hinges on recognizing that the spirit trying to pull you into the depths is the same one that will honor a promise or accept a respectful bow. This lesson in negotiation with the unknown prepares us for a journey upward, away from the deceptive waters to the vast and open sky, where a different kind of guide waits, one who does not bargain but simply points the way. High above the tangled woods and deceptive rivers, where the air grows thin and the horizon curves, there exists a destination not found on any earthly map. A seeker of truth, having traversed deserts of doubt and valleys of despair, finally scales the mythical peaks of Mount Kaf. Here, they do not find a monster, but a miracle, the Simurgh. This is no ordinary bird. Its vast wingspan blots out the sun, shimmering with the colors of 1,000 precious metals, and its wise face holds the gentle features of a dog combined with the regal power of a lion. In the soaring verses of the Persian poet Attar, this celestial being becomes the ultimate goal of an epic spiritual journey, a living symbol of enlightenment waiting at the end of the soul's long road. Unlike the territorial Leshy or the Trickster Kappa, the Simurgh does not test travelers with traps or riddles of survival. It tests the heart and the spirit. Its very presence is a gift, offering healing, profound wisdom, and the answer to questions the seeker has carried for a lifetime. To encounter the Simurgh is to have your quest resolved, your fractured understanding made whole. The creature embodies a stunning idea that the universe itself might send a guide to those who persevere with pure intent. In Attar's allegory, a group of 30 birds embark on a perilous voyage to find their king, the Simurgh, only to discover at their journey's end that the word Simurgh also means 30 birds. They gaze into a celestial mirror and see that the divine guide they sought was, in essence, the unity and transformation they achieved together along the path. This shifts the entire mythology of travel, revealing that some legendary beings are not obstacles or omens, but mirrors and catalysts. They represent not what might befall a wanderer, but what the wanderer might become. The Simurgh turns the journey inward, suggesting the greatest fate a traveler can meet is their own highest self. Yet for every path that leads to enlightenment, there is another that leads into a suffocating silence, where a different kind of creature does not guide, but consumes the very essence of the journey itself. The warmth of the sun is a distant memory in the land of ice and long nights. A Norse traveler seeking shelter or perhaps lured by tales of treasure approaches a lonely burial mound rising from the frozen earth. With a single misplaced step or the strike of a shovel, they shatter an ancient silence, and the ground itself seems to exhale a cold deeper than winter. This is the awakening of the Draugr. Far from a wispy phantom, this is a physical horror, an undead guardian reanimated with a singular purpose, to protect its grave goods and the sacred ground of its resting place. Scholar Hilda Ellis Davidson described these beings as profoundly anti-social, a force of pure territorial malice. They are not lost souls but furious proprietors. Imagine a figure emerging from the dark soil, not as it was in life, but swollen to monstrous size, its flesh corpse blue or black, possessing a strength that can crush stone and a grip that no living arm can break. Its appearance is a reflection of its nature, a grotesque monument to defiance against the natural order. For the wanderer who has crossed this ultimate boundary, fate is horrifyingly direct. The Draugr does not bargain or issue riddles. It attacks with a relentless physical fury meant to kill or drive the intruder into utter madness. This creature embodies a fundamental and terrifying rule of the road, that some spaces are not merely forbidden, but actively defended by a legacy stronger than death itself. The warning is clear: the journey's greatest peril may not be a monster you seek out, but a guardian you accidentally provoke through greed or simple disrespect. The Draugr teaches that every landscape has a memory, and some memories are buried with a clenched fist. This lesson in territorial violation leads us from the frozen barrows of the north to a very different, yet equally perilous boundary, the sun-scorched line where the desert meets the road. The dust of a Roman road holds more than just footprints. It carries the quiet hum of a spiritual contract. As dusk settled over the Appian Way, a weary merchant might pause not in fear, but in practiced gratitude, placing a few grains of incense or a splash of wine at a small roadside shrine. This humble act was an appeal to the Lares Viales, the guardian spirits of roads, pathways, and all who traveled them. In a world filled with unpredictable wilderness and potential danger, these deities represented a brilliant idea that civilization itself could have divine protectors. They were not monstrous or capricious, but benevolent extensions of the household gods, the Lares, who watched over the family hearth. As classicist Mary Beard explains, this practice effectively stretched the safety of the home out along the engineered stone arteries of the empire. The Lares Viales offered a spiritual safety net, a way for a traveler to actively shape their own fate through simple ritual. Honoring them was as practical as checking a horse's saddle, a small investment against the countless misfortunes of the road, from a twisted ankle to a bandit's ambush or simply vanishing into the trackless wild. This concept provides a crucial counterpoint to the tales of terror. Fate could be courted for the better, not just feared for the worse. It reveals a profound human desire to build relationships even with the unseen forces of a journey, to seek companionship in the void. Yet this very system of roadside devotion inevitably leads to a specific, potent location where paths converge and decisions multiply, the Crossroads. And it is here, at this junction of possibilities, that the benevolent guidance of the Lares gives way to the domain of a far more mysterious and demanding figure, one who does not simply protect the path, but owns the moment of choice itself. A crossroads is not just a meeting of paths, it is a collision of possibilities. At this lonely junction under a moonless sky, the world feels thin, a place where choices have weight and the future feels strangely negotiable. Here, across cultures and centuries, waits a figure who understands this moment better than any mortal, the archetypal Crossroads devil. This being takes many forms, from the Greek goddess Hecate, who received offerings at three-way crossings, to the shadowy man of African-American folklore who appears when hope runs dry. The most famous tale tells of blues musician Robert Johnson, who legend says brought his guitar to a Mississippi crossroads at midnight and met a large, shadowy figure who tuned the instrument, granting him otherworldly talent in exchange for his soul. As folklorist Alan Lomax observed, these stories were not just superstition, they were profound metaphors for the real, desperate choices faced by travelers and marginalized people in a world stacked against them. The Crossroads devil personifies the ultimate traveler's dilemma, the seductive shortcut versus the long, honest road. This creature offers a stark, immediate power to reshape one's fate, a deal that bypasses struggle and promises mastery over the journey itself. But the price is always the same, a piece of your future, your essence, your soul. In doing so, this legend transforms the physical act of travel into a deep moral landscape. Every path chosen represents a value, every deal a compromise. The Crossroads devil does not attack or trick in the traditional sense. It simply presents a contract, making the wanderer an active participant in their own potential undoing. It is the embodiment of ambition's dark twin, the understanding that some destinations, when reached by certain means, can hollow out the traveler who arrives. This chilling concept of a bargain that warps destiny leads us directly to the ultimate consequence of such a pact, not a changed fate but a stolen one, a journey with no destination at all. The horizon line vanishes into a wall of churning grey, and the wind carries a sound no sailor ever wishes to hear, the spectral creak of rigging from a ship that is not there. In the heart of a raging gale, the ultimate maritime omen materializes, the phantom form of the Flying Dutchman. This is no single creature, but a cursed vessel and its doomed crew, an entire community of the lost condemned to sail the oceans for eternity, never to make port or find rest. The legend, famously captured in Richard Wagner's opera, often centers on a captain, sometimes named Vander Decken, whose blasphemous oath against the storm or whose sheer arrogance in attempting to round the Cape of Good Hope against divine will earn him this terrible sentence. His ship, with sails the color of blood or tattered ghostly gray, appears suddenly through the mist, a silent, glowing apparition on a collision course with destiny. For any traveler upon the sea, especially a fellow sailor, to sight this phantom is to receive an omen of absolute doom, a forecast of shipwreck or a personal fate entwined with the endless voyage. As maritime historian Marcus Redica has suggested, such myths were profound cautionary tales born from the very real perils of the age of sail. They spoke to the hubris of humanity challenging the natural world, and to the terrifying, very real possibility of vanishing without a trace, becoming a story whispered in forecastles for generations. The Dutchman embodies the ultimate travel nightmare, the journey that becomes a prison, the destination that recedes forever just beyond the bow. It transforms the vast, open ocean into a trackless maze with no exit, where fate is not a single event but an inescapable, repeating loop. This theme of endless, cursed motion does not belong solely to the sea, however. It finds a chilling echo on solid ground, in the restless stride of a spirit forever walking the border between realms. A foreign voice speaks through your own lips, a will not your own moving your limbs. In the rich tapestry of Jewish folklore, this is the terrifying reality of the Dybbuk, a being that represents perhaps the most intimate violation a traveler can face, the hijacking of the self. Unlike the demonic possessions of other traditions, the Dybbuk is a uniquely tragic figure, a lost and tormented human soul that cannot find peace after its passing. As the great scholar of Jewish mysticism Gershom Scholem explained, this spirit, burdened by unresolved sin or unbearable unfinished business, clings to the world of the living by forcefully attaching itself to a vulnerable host. And who is more vulnerable than a wanderer, someone already unmoored from home, existing in a state of physical and spiritual transition? The road can wear down one's defenses, leaving an opening for this clinging, desperate energy. The creature's goal is not mere haunting, but full occupation. It seizes control of the body, speaking with the voice of the deceased, recounting their sorrows and acting out their anguish. In doing so, it utterly reshapes the traveler's fate, turning their ongoing journey into a prison cell for another's agony. Your path is no longer your own. Your destination becomes irrelevant. You are a vessel carrying someone else's torment. The exorcism rituals for a Dybbuk, as Scholem detailed, are profoundly revealing. They are not simple battles of holy power against evil, but intricate, compassionate investigations. A rabbi or spiritual adept must engage the possessing spirit in dialogue, gently uncovering its story, its name, and the reason for its restless attachment. Resolution comes through understanding, through helping the lost soul acknowledge its state and finally release its grip, often by atoning for a past wrong or fulfilling a symbolic act. This transforms the possession from a mere horror story into a profound lesson about the nature of journeys, both physical and spiritual. The Dybbuk warns that travel can sometimes lead to a loss of identity, a fragmentation of the self that makes one susceptible to being filled by other, darker narratives. It speaks to the psychological peril of being rootless for too long. Yet this very concept of a hostile spiritual attachment naturally leads us to consider its opposite, a form of travel not defined by vulnerability, but by an impenetrable, sacred protection. The air grows thin and painfully cold, a silence so profound it feels like a physical weight. Here, on a high Himalayan pass where the sky meets the endless white, a trekker might find a line of footprints pressed deep into the snow, a stride too long and a shape too broad for any bear or human. This is the domain of the Yeti, the abominable snowman, a being that transcends simple monster lore to become a fundamental part of the mountain's spiritual geography. For the Sherpa communities and Buddhist monks who live in the shadow of these peaks, the Yeti is not a cryptid to be hunted, but a powerful, elusive neighbor, a guardian woven into the fabric of the sacred landscape. Anthropologist Sherry Ortner observed that in these traditions, the creature often acts as an enforcer of natural law, a protector of the most remote and pristine wild spaces. Tales describe it not as inherently violent, but as fiercely reactive, punishing those who show arrogance, greed, or disrespect toward the fragile mountain environment. A hunting party that takes more than it needs, a climber who desecrates a holy site. These are the travelers who might hear a guttural roar echo off the glaciers or catch a glimpse of a massive, shaggy figure watching from the cliffs. The Yeti, therefore, shapes fate not through random attack, but by imposing a strict code of conduct. It represents the ultimate test for any wanderer in extreme wilderness, a trial of both physical resilience and deep reverence. Your safety on the path is directly tied to your humility and your awareness that you are a guest in a realm that does not belong to you. This enforcer of high-altitude respect could not be more different from the legendary being waiting in the world's opposite extreme, where the ground is not frozen white but burning gold. The desert sun bleeds the world of color, leaving only shimmering gold and deep, deceptive shadow. In this immense silence of the Arabian dunes, the greatest trick is discerning what is real from what is a trick of the mind. The heat haze itself seems to have consciousness here, a manifestation of the Jinn. According to Islamic theology, these are not spirits of the dead, but an entirely separate creation, fashioned from a smokeless fire, possessing intellect, emotion, and free will just as humans do. They exist alongside us, often unseen, favoring the very spaces travelers fear most, the empty wastes, the crumbling ruins, the lonely stretches between oases. As scholar Amira El-Zain illuminates, this makes every desert crossing a potential negotiation with an invisible society. Your fate could turn on a seemingly minor act, like relieving yourself on ground a Jinn considers home or speaking a careless word into the wind. Such an offense might bring a curse, a sudden sandstorm, or a whispering madness that leads you in circles until your water skin runs dry. Yet the relationship is not purely adversarial. Stories also tell of Jinn appearing as fellow travelers in distress, testing a person's charity, and then rewarding profound kindness with guidance to a secret spring or protection through a bandit-ridden pass. They embody the desert's ultimate paradox, a place that can offer revelation or ruin, often decided by the traveler's own conduct and the unknowable whims of an unseen neighbor. This introduces a breathtakingly complex cosmology, the idea that we are never truly alone on the road, that the world is shared with other conscious travelers whose paths we cross in blissful ignorance or terrifying awareness. This theme of a hidden, intelligent world directly influencing the journey finds a powerful echo across the ocean, in the deep, old-growth forests of North America, where another being blurs the line between guardian and trickster, waiting just beyond the edge of the firelight. The deep snow of a northern forest does more than muffle sound, it muffles conscience. In the vast, winter-locked woodlands of Algonquian tradition, the greatest predator is not a wolf or a bear, but a transformation that begins in the human heart. This is the Wendigo, a being born from the perfect storm of isolation, desperate hunger, and a profound violation of the most sacred taboo. It starts with a traveler or hunter, lost and starving as the blizzard howls, their survival instinct warping into something monstrous. In that moment of ultimate crisis, if they cross the line and consume human flesh to live, they do not merely commit an act, they invite a possession. Their body and spirit are overtaken by the Wendigo, a gaunt, skeletal giant perpetually frozen yet burning with an insatiable hunger for more human flesh. Its heart is said to be made of solid ice, a perfect symbol for the absolute emptiness it represents. As psychiatrist and folklorist Nathan Carlson explains, the Wendigo is far more than a monster story. It is a powerful cultural narrative about the dangers of excess and the catastrophic loss of community ethics. It embodies the horror of what happens when the individual's needs completely eclipse the bonds that hold society together. To encounter a Wendigo in the woods is to face the ghost of a failed journey, a warning made flesh. But the deeper terror, the one that truly shapes a traveler's fate, is the potential to become one. This legend establishes the journey's most severe internal boundary, a line that, once crossed, annihilates the traveler you were and replaces you with an endless hunger. It teaches that some survival comes at a cost worse than passing, the complete corruption of the self. This chilling theme of internal transformation, of a beautiful exterior hiding a predatory nature, finds its mirror not in the frozen north, but in the sun-drenched waters of the ancient Mediterranean, where a traveler's fate could be sealed not by what they did, but by the sheer, irresistible beauty of what they saw. A beautiful voice on the wind can be more deadly than any storm. For the ancient Greek mariner, the greatest danger was not found in the deep, but on a sun-bleached shore where the Sirens waited. These were not simple monsters, but beings of profound and terrible artistry, often shown with the bodies of birds and the faces of women, their voices weaving a harmony that no mortal could resist. Their song was a weapon of perfect seduction, promising the listener all the secrets of the world, every story of every war, every hidden truth of the past and future. As classicist Emily Wilson highlights, this is what made them uniquely perilous, especially for the curious or intellectual traveler. They did not threaten with claws or teeth. They offered a gift, the ultimate distraction disguised as enlightenment. To hear their melody was to forget your ship, your home, your very purpose, steering mindlessly toward the jagged rocks in a blissful trance. Their power shaped a fate of utter stagnation, a literal and metaphorical shipwreck where a journey of epic scope ends broken and still. The hero Odysseus, forewarned by the sorceress Circe, devised the famous countermeasure. He ordered his crew to plug their ears with wax and had himself lashed to the mast of his ship, commanding them not to release him no matter how desperately he begged. This moment is a masterclass in understanding travel psychology. Odysseus knew his own curiosity was his greatest vulnerability, so he engineered a system of external restraint. He acknowledged that in the face of certain temptations, willpower alone would fail. The Sirens, therefore, represent the peril of the false summit, the alluring detour that promises wisdom but delivers only ruin. They teach that the most dangerous part of a journey is often the thing you want most to hear, the promise of easy answers that would make the hard road meaningless. Their lesson is one of planned resistance, of knowing your weaknesses and building your defenses before the song even begins. This epic struggle against seductive distraction could not be more different from facing a creature that offers no song, no bargain, and no possibility of clever preparation, only the certainty of an endless, relentless chase. The silence of a lonely lane is broken by the soft pad of heavy paws on damp earth. You are not alone, but the presence beside you is not human. A massive, shaggy black dog has fallen into step, its eyes like burning coals in the dark, its breath a silent cloud in the chill air. This is the black dog of British folklore, an omen that walks, a creature whose very nature is a riddle. In the misty fens of East Anglia, they speak in hushed tones of black shuck, a spectral hound whose passing is said to foretell a death within the year. In the rugged north, the Barghest of Yorkshire prowls, a similarly grim apparition. Yet the stories are never so simple. In the very next village, a tale might be told of a great black dog that appeared out of the fog to guide a lost child safely home, or to walk beside a nervous traveler, a silent guardian against more tangible roadside dangers. Folklorist Jennifer Westwood proposed that these enduring legends may spring from deep roots, perhaps memories of pre-Christian guardian spirits of the land, or even the practical, comforting presence of actual watchdogs at the outskirts of ancient settlements. This profound ambiguity is the creature's true power. The black dog does not attack, it rarely even interacts, it simply is. It materializes at a moment of transition, on a bridge, at a crossroads, or on a path between villages, and its meaning is entirely for the traveler to decide. Is this a protector or a harbinger? Your fate in that moment is not dictated by the creature, but by your own perception, your own courage, or your own dread. It forces you to walk side by side with the unknown, to carry on your journey while being acutely observed by a silent judge. In this way, the black dog shapes destiny by holding up a dark mirror to the wanderer's soul, making you confront the companion that is your own fear. This embodiment of a primal, walking anxiety finds its ultimate expression in a being that is not an omen of fear, but fear itself given a name and a form. A fence of human bones rattles in the wind, marking the boundary of a clearing that should not exist. Within it, a hut crouches on giant, scaly chicken legs, slowly turning to face the newcomer. This is the domain of Baba Yaga, the fearsome witch of Slavic folklore, and for any traveler lost in her deep, dark woods, she is the ultimate threshold guardian. She does not merely block the path, she is the path, a living, breathing ordeal that every quest must pass through. Her appearance is a nightmare made flesh, with iron teeth, a nose so long it scrapes the ceiling of her hut, and she rides through the sky not on a broom, but in a giant mortar, steering with a pestle as she sweeps away her tracks with a birch broom. Her greeting is rarely welcoming, often a growled threat to cook and eat the foolish mortal who has stumbled upon her home. Yet, as folklorist Andreas Johns emphasizes, her violence is a test, not a certainty. Baba Yaga is a master of initiation, a chaotic force that determines a traveler's fate through a series of impossible demands and razor-sharp riddles. She might command a visitor to wash her vast laundry, cook a feast from a single grain of wheat, or separate a mound of poppy seeds from a pile of dirt, all before dawn. The outcome hinges entirely on the wanderer's conduct. Arrogance or cowardice leads to a grim end, but cleverness, unwavering politeness, and a quiet bravery can transform the witch from a devourer into a donor. For the one who passes her trials, she becomes a powerful helper, offering a magical comb that grows into an impenetrable forest, a towel that turns into a raging river, or a ball of yarn that rolls unerringly toward one's destiny. Baba Yaga's lesson is profound. The journey's most critical moment often looks like a dead end presided over by a monster. She shapes fate not by predestination, but by proving who has the wit, respect, and resilience to proceed. She is the wild, untamed wisdom of the world itself, and you cannot receive her gifts until you have faced her iron teeth without flinching. This theme of a trial that unfolds not in a waking nightmare, but in the vulnerable landscape of sleep, leads us to a creature that offers a similar test of worth, one conducted entirely within the realm of dreams. The Dreamtime of the Australian landscape holds more than stories, it holds consequences. For the traveler crossing the vast, red expanse of the outback, every rock formation, every dry creek bed, and every lone gum tree pulses with a living history, a sacred geography known as country. To journey here without understanding is not just risky, it is spiritually perilous, for this is the domain of the Mamu. These are not simple monsters, but malicious spirits or forces deeply tied to specific places, sites of power or sorrow that hold a kind of negative charge within the dreaming. Anthropologist Ronald Berndt noted that for Aboriginal peoples, navigation was never a purely physical act. It was a dialogue with a sentient landscape. The Mamu were a key part of that dialogue, often invoked as explanations for the sudden, inexplicable hardships of travel. A person might develop a mysterious illness after camping near a certain waterhole, or find themselves hopelessly lost, walking in circles despite knowing the land, all because they had unknowingly trespassed into a place guarded by these beings. The Mamu, therefore, shapes a traveler's fate by acting as an enforcer of ancestral law. They represent the tangible danger of moving through country without the proper knowledge, respect, or permission from its traditional custodians. Your safety and success on the path are directly tied to your spiritual responsibility, to your willingness to learn the stories of the land you are passing through. This concept transforms the very idea of travel from a line on a map into a sacred negotiation, where misfortune is not random bad luck, but a form of feedback from the land itself. It teaches that some journeys require more than a compass, they require an introduction. This profound link between place, spirit, and the traveler's well-being resonates powerfully across the ocean, in the lush, volcanic islands of Hawaii, where the land is also alive with watchful presences. A traveler in ancient Hawaii, faced with an impassable stream at dusk, might simply make a respectful request to the darkness. By first light, they could find a sturdy, perfect bridge spanning the water, built from stones fitted together with impossible precision. This is the legacy of the Menehune, a legendary race of small, powerfully built people said to live hidden in the deep valleys and forests of the islands. They are master craftsmen working only under the cover of night, and they vanish at the slightest hint of the approaching sun or a human witness. Unlike many creatures of myth, the Menehune are not inherently malevolent. They are simply other, operating by their own inscrutable rules. Their power to shape a traveler's fate is not through direct confrontation, but through sudden, miraculous alterations to the landscape itself. They might construct a winding trail that leads a lost wanderer to safety, or a complex fish pond that ensures a village survival for generations. Yet they could just as easily divert a stream, causing a familiar path to wash away, or leave a project half-finished as a tantalizing, useless monument. As ethnologist Catherine Luomala suggested, these stories often served as a folk explanation for the island's remarkable, ancient engineering feats, like the elaborate aquaculture systems or massive stone temples, whose construction methods were not fully recorded. The Menehune transform the environment from a static setting into an active, unpredictable participant. They embody the capriciousness of nature itself, the understanding that the path you walked yesterday might be fundamentally different today, reshaped by forces you will never see or understand. This idea that unseen hands are constantly remolding the world of the traveler prepares us for the most profound concept of all, the legends where the journey is not just affected by a creature, but where the creature and the journey become one and the same. The road stretches on forever, but for some, that is not a possibility. It is the sentence. From the spectral ship adrift at sea, we find its echo on solid ground in a figure whose steps have worn paths across continents and centuries. This is the archetype of the eternal wanderer, a human soul transformed by curse into a legendary being for whom the journey is not a choice, but an inescapable identity. The most famous embodiment is the Wandering Jew, a figure from Christian legend said to have taunted Jesus on the path to the crucifixion and was condemned to walk the earth without rest until the second coming. His counterpart is the captain of the Flying Dutchman, bound not to land but to the endless sea. These are not monsters in the traditional sense, but cursed men, and their punishment reveals a terrifying inversion of the travel myth. For them, the road is not an adventure or a test, it is a prison without walls. Home is not a distant memory, it is a permanently locked door. Their fate is the ultimate exile, a permanent severing from community, stability, and the simple human right to cease moving. As literary scholar Galit Hassan Rokum has observed, such figures often serve as cultural vessels for processing profound historical trauma, from diasporas to collective guilt. They walk among us as living reminders, their endless motion a testament to a single, fateful action taken on their own road long ago. This shifts the entire focus of our exploration. The creature that shapes the traveler's fate is no longer an external force in the woods or the waves. It is the traveler themselves, transformed by their own transgression into a perpetual warning. The legend asks a haunting question: what action on your journey could be so grave that the punishment is to never, ever be allowed to stop taking it? It reframes the spiritual consequences of the road, suggesting that the true monster might not be something you meet, but something you become when you forget compassion, humility, or mercy on your path. Their endless footsteps are a quiet, relentless echo of the social cost of a journey taken without a heart. A flickering light in the deep swamp promises rescue but delivers ruin. The ground beneath your feet grows soft and cold. The safe path is lost behind you in the gloom, and the only beacon is a pale, bobbing flame that dances just ahead, always retreating as you stumble forward. This is the will-o'-the-wisp, a phantom glow known across Britain as Jack-o'-lantern, and to science as Ignis Fatuus, the foolish fire. It is perhaps the purest metaphor for peril ever conjured by the human imagination, a sentient deception made of light and loneliness. While natural explanations point to the spontaneous combustion of methane rising from rotting plant matter in marshes, folklore insists this is no accident of chemistry. It is a conscious trick, a spirit with a cruel sense of humor. The creature does not attack, it simply beckons. Its power lies entirely in the hope it ignites within the lost and the weary. A traveler, desperate to find their way out of the deepening dark, will fixate on that gentle, promising glow, abandoning all caution to follow it. The light leads them on a meandering, hopeless chase, deeper into quicks and over-hidden drop-offs or into stagnant pools until exhaustion or the treacherous ground itself claims them. It is fate shaped not by force but by seduction, exploiting the most human of instincts to move toward the light. The will-o'-the-wisp embodies the danger of false guidance, the understanding that the most appealing path in a moment of crisis is often the one that circles back to your own demise. It asks a haunting question of every wanderer: how do you know the light you follow is a star and not a trap? This final, elegant deception brings into sharp focus the underlying unity of all these legendary beings. From the Banshee's warning wail to the Leshy's territorial maze, from the Crossroads devil's bargain to the Wisp's dancing lie, each creature represents a different facet of the same ancient truth. They are the stories we tell to map the uncharted geography of risk itself. They give form to the real, tangible dangers of the road: illness, isolation, natural disaster, moral compromise, and the seduction of easy answers, transforming them into encounters we can picture, outwit, or respect. These legends are not merely superstition, they are a profound collective wisdom literature written in the language of myth. They teach vigilance, humility, and reverence, offering a symbolic guidebook for navigating a world that is, and always has been, full of unseen turns. The riddle is carved from the very silence of the desert. Before the gates of Thebes, where the sand meets the stone of civilization, a monumental creature waits, a fusion of human intellect and leonine power. This is the Sphinx, not merely a statue, but a living legend, the ultimate sentinel of threshold. Its mythic role is crystallized in the tale of Oedipus, where it terrorized the city by posing a riddle to all who sought to enter, devouring those who failed. The creature asked what walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs at noon, and 3 legs in the evening. The answer, of course, was humanity itself, crawling as an infant, walking upright in adulthood, and using a cane in old age. Oedipus solved it, and the Sphinx, defeated, cast itself from the rocks. This story reveals the creature's profound function. It is not a guardian of physical treasure, but of intellectual and spiritual passage. As Egyptologist Salama Ikram emphasizes, the real sphinxes of Giza and other sacred sites served as protectors of royal tombs and holy spaces, eternal watchers whose gaze separated the worthy from the unworthy. For the metaphorical traveler approaching any place of great power or knowledge, the Sphinx represents the final, non-negotiable exam. Your fate is not decided by the strength of your sword arm, but by the clarity of your mind and the depth of your self-knowledge. It makes the journey a test of inner merit, proving that the most important baggage a wanderer carries is not in their pack, but in their understanding of the world and, crucially, of themselves. The Sphinx devours not out of malice, but as a consequence of ignorance. It grants passage not as a reward, but as an acknowledgement of earned wisdom. This majestic being brings our exploration to a powerful thematic peak, shifting the focus from external dangers to the ultimate internal trial. It asks what we have learned on our long road, and whether that learning has prepared us for the questions waiting at our destination. The journey itself is the true crucible of legend. Having walked these 20 paths, from the Banshee's mournful warning to the Sphinx's silent riddle, a deeper pattern emerges, one that asks not what these creatures are, but why they exist for the wanderer at all. The answer lies in the fundamental nature of leaving home. To travel is to voluntarily step into a state of profound vulnerability, a space of transition where the familiar rules of community and safety are temporarily suspended. Anthropologists call this state liminality, a powerful concept from the work of Arnold van Gennep. It describes the in-between phase of a ritual, after one has left an old status but before a new one is confirmed. The traveler lives this ritual every day on the road, caught betwixt and between the structured world they left and the uncertain destination ahead. In this liminal space, the normal protections of society are thin, and the membrane between the everyday and the extraordinary feels more permeable. It is here, in this psychological and social ambiguity, that legendary beings find their most fertile ground. They are not random inventions, but narrative manifestations of the journey's core realities. The Leshy's disorienting forest and the will-o'-the-Wisp's deceptive light give tangible form to the primal fear of getting lost. The Wendigo's insatiable hunger embodies the very real threat of starvation in the wilderness, while the Dybbuk's possession reflects the deep psychological unease of prolonged solitude and the fear of losing one's identity far from home. These stories transform abstract dangers into creatures we can picture, outwit, or appease, but they also give shape to hope. The Lares Viales offered a system of divine roadside protection, and the Simurgh represented the ultimate enlightened guide for the worthy seeker. These legends provided a framework for understanding both misfortune and miraculous aid, making the chaos of travel feel narratively manageable. On a cultural level, these beings became powerful teaching tools. The Kappa's obsession with politeness encoded vital social etiquette for encountering strangers. The Yeti and the Mamu enforced deep environmental respect, teaching that the land itself is a conscious entity with rules. The Crossroads devil presented a stark parable about the perils of shortcuts and moral compromise. By projecting their collective fears, values, and warnings onto these legendary figures, communities created a symbolic guidebook for the perilous act of journeying. They externalized the internal risks of the road, turning the vast, intimidating unknown into a landscape populated with intelligible forces. each with its own logic and lessons. In doing so, they made the world navigable not just physically but morally and spiritually. The traveler, therefore, is not merely a victim or a hero in these tales, but the essential catalyst. Their liminal state invites the legend to walk beside them, turning every lonely path into a story waiting to happen, and every shadow into a teacher in disguise. That tapestry of 20 legends woven from every corner of the world speaks a universal truth about stepping into the unknown. It tells us that the journey has always been more than a physical distance. It is a story we live, filled with characters that embody our deepest anxieties and our highest hopes. The Banshee gave voice to the fear of loss that follows us down every road, while the Simurgh offered a vision of enlightenment awaiting those who persevere. The Crossroads devil made our moral compromises tangible, and the Sphinx turned a city gate into a test of self-knowledge. These creatures were the original travel guides, not showing the way on a map, but illuminating the hidden terrain of the human spirit that every wanderer must cross. And though our forests are now mapped by satellites and our deserts crossed with satellite phones, the archetypes they represent have not vanished, they have simply shape-shifted. The-Wisp, that cruel, dancing light leading the lost astray, finds its modern echo in a misleading digital review or a glitching navigation app that promises a shortcut but delivers a dead end. The trial of Baba Yaga, with her impossible tasks and razor-sharp riddles, lives on in the complex travel dilemmas we face, the split-second decisions about trust, resourcefulness, and ethics in a foreign place. We may not leave offerings for the Lares Viales at roadside shrines anymore, but we still seek their protective function. We call it travel insurance, a trusted guidebook, or the profound relief of a kind local's help in a moment of confusion. These ancient stories were never about the literal monsters. They were about naming the forces that act upon a person in transition. So the next time you pack a bag, whether for a commute across town or a voyage across continents, remember you are carrying more than your belongings. You are stepping into a story as old as humanity itself, a narrative where you are both the traveler and the author of your own fate. Let these 20 legendary beings be your silent companions. Let the Kappa remind you to approach new cultures with respect and a willingness to learn the local customs. Let the Yeti encourage humility in the face of majestic, untamed nature. Let the caution of the Flying Dutchman steer you away from the hubris of believing any journey is without risk. Travel with the curiosity of a seeker heading for Mount Kaf, but carry the wisdom of Odysseus, knowing which siren songs to tie yourself against. These tales are the enduring compass, not for north or south, but for navigating the heart of the experience itself. They urge us to move through the world not as conquerors, but as mindful guests, to meet the unknown not with fear, but with a respectful and open heart. The final question they leave us with is a personal one. Which of these ancient echoes do you hear most clearly on your own journeys? What modern incarnation of a legendary encounter do you believe still quietly shapes the fate of today's wanderer? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this voyage through the myths of the road, subscribe for more explorations into the hidden stories that shape our world.